I've recently got into running too.
Yeah.
And I've found that for me, physical exertion helps a lot, whether it's running or exercising or pushing weights. When I used to go to the gym, the punching bag was great. Again, not in violence, just in terms of expelling that energy. Into something else. Hey, Shane.
Hey,
all right.
how you doing?
Today's question is, how do you deal with anger without harming yourself or others?
Yeah, that's a big one, I think. Because a few days ago I had to actually deal with some anger, which doesn't really come up that often. I'm a pretty quiet and peaceful person, or I've learned to be over the last couple of decades anyway. But we had a house full of dogs, which doesn't usually happen. And our dog, we've got a golden retriever, and he's really zen. Like you'll never hear him bark. That type of dog. And we've been looking after a couple of other dogs, which are beautiful. But if they get startled, they just start yapping all the time. And there was this occurrence where it went on for about 10, 15 minutes, just
Oh, wow.
constant yapping. Then we had all these people coming in, and there was just a whole lot of stuff going on all at the same time. And I could kind of feel myself, kind of not feeling the same as I normally do. There's this rise in anger inside.
Yeah.
I thought I've got to take myself out of this situation before I say or do something that it's not going to be too nice. So I stepped out anyway, and just had to give myself a couple of minutes to regain my composure, sort of thing, and then come back into it, with a reframed kind of perspective. But I think this is something that it's very normal, to get angry about things. But I think, there were times, especially in my younger days, where I was known to kind of really go off the deep end, like something that set me off, and it did take a long time for me to kind of calm down from whatever that situation was. And so it was sometime after that, I think I went into personal development, understanding myself and why these things kind of occur. And so going in and understanding that, kind of gives you tools for life, I think, to kind of catch it before it gets out of hand. But I think the secret too is, when it does get out of hand, is to understand how to kind of handle it in a manner that is positive for you and for others around you, so you can, kind of expel that energy in a very kind of positive manner. Which sounds weird, angry being positive, but
Yeah.
but it's energy at the end of the day, and it can be used for many things, But if it's hurting you and others, it needs to be dealt with in some sort of positive way. So yeah.
Look, I'm the same as you. I can't remember the last time I was truly angry, like full of rage angry. I have been, like, as most people have at one point in their life, but I can't specifically remember a time where I was. I do remember, though, some of the coping mechanisms that I have when I get to that level, or when I start to approach that. I can feel myself getting to that level of anger. I think these days I cry. I think it almost, I sort of fast forward all of the rage and anger and just like, you know what, like what's going on here? And it's probably out of frustration.
Yeah.
But I have experienced a rage like anger. I'm not an overly violent person, even though I do like MMA. I love UFC. I love martial arts, fighting in general. I appreciate it. I used to do it, but I'm not a person that will want to punch someone or kick someone or throw things or do anything like that. So of the times when I have felt that, I have a bunch of different tools that I reach out and use to try and quell the situation. The first is obviously the walk. That's always the best thing to do, is just to remove yourself from the situation, remove yourself from the environment, try and walk, try and think about anything else but. It could be like a walking meditation. You could be listening to music. It could be listening to something, anything to get yourself out of that place, to get you out of that headspace. It could be even as something as playing a video game. It's that's helped for me in the past. Now, I don't have the one solution for everything. I kind of have this process where I'll try different things, and if that thing doesn't work, I'll try something else to try and quell that anger. So those examples there are kind of first stage. If I'm starting to get anxious about something, whether it's, if a person is on my nerves, or there's some stress around paying some bills, some things with my partner, my wife, or the kids, it might be a case of me just clearing the head. So that's the first thing. I've recently got into running too.
Yeah.
And I've found that for me, physical exertion helps a lot, whether it's running or exercising or pushing weights. When I used to go to the gym, the punching bag was great. Again, not in violence, just in terms of expelling that energy. Into something else. That's always helped me. And strangely, when you use that energy into something physical, you might run faster, you might run longer, you might do things with a little bit more gusto. And if it's truly a good workout or a good run, or you've expelled quite a lot of energy, by the end of it, you're actually too tired to feel angry. Or if you are, because it's happened to me before, you just do it again. It's almost like you exercise the angry away.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I've tried. What else have I tried? Video games I've always played video games, and I still love playing video games. And there's always been discussions about the violence in video games and how bad it is for kids. Touch wood, I'm fine with them. My kids have grown up playing some of these video games, but for me, strangely, it's quite soothing. If I'm angry, or if there's something that I want to express in a physical way, hopping onto a video game and playing a boxing game or a UFC game, or something where I can just take it out in a visual way and using my hands, actually helps. So those are some of the things that I've used in the immediate term.
Yeah.
Longer term, a lot of things that I do, I still do now and do every day. I journal a lot, and I find that journaling the situation helps. It could be over the course of a single journal entry, or it could be through the course of the week. Being able to express my thoughts that way, for me, is almost it's like a download. It's like I get them out of my head and onto paper, and now that it's there, I can close the program down, and that sort of feeling can stay with that. And I also do a lot of audio recording, like voice memoing for myself, which I love. And I've recorded a separate video telling people to do that. I think for many people, the stages of anger, it goes feeling an internal feeling, and then it gets to that level of elevated speech, yelling, and then could progress into violence sort of thing, or tendencies of wanting to, just stomping around. So I've had many an audio recording or a voice memo of me yelling into my phone the frustration I'm feeling of a certain situation, or I can't believe this is happening to me again. And again, it's similar to a download. It's out of my head, and I've fully expressed it in a way that I want to express it, with a bit of anger, with a bit of passion behind it. And once it's expelled, I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Sure, it might not make the situation, well, it doesn't really change the situation as such, but in terms of the feeling that I have, the anger that I have in me at the time,
Yeah.
it comes out. And then I'm allowed to then think about it in a different light because, when I'm angry, I'm thinking about just this one thing, this one aspect of this issue or this problem or the situation, and I can't see the other sides. But if I let it out through yelling and recording myself and journaling to some aspect, then it's like, okay, I've seen that side of that situation. And now there's a bit of space. There's a bit of space for me to go, okay, well, maybe I'm not right after all. Maybe I shouldn't get worked up, So those are some of the things that I do to try and quell that anger.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think we, once we're angry, the moment's gone, right? It's really hard to kind of catch yourself in the moment. So it's great that you kind of do the physical action where you either go for a run or expel it in some sort of physical form. Taking a step back, what do you believe kind of sets us off in the first place? Do you have some ideas around that?
I think for me it is it's a change of an expectation of a situation or a decision, or a particular event in life where if I was expecting this and in expecting that I can do the rest of these things, if there's a change in that expectation, then it's like, wait a minute, I'm not expecting that. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times there's some creativity in that you can solve whatever that problem is and it's fine. But there are times where some of these changes set you back, especially if there's a lot of work behind certain things. If you putting effort towards doing something and your expectation of that and the actual result differs, then it knocks you back. And I know for me, I'm not very knee jerk with certain things. Like it would take something quite, not horrific. Horrific's a bit of a strong word, but something quite bad for me to react badly to a situation on the spot. Generally, for me to get to a particular level of anger and rage, it's almost a build up of time over, and it might not be just a single thing that goes wrong. It might be this thing went wrong and that thing went wrong and then that thing went wrong. And then me trying to get out of it doesn't really work. And I'm just going lower and lower and lower. And the triggering thing for me could just be something so small. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. I think it's the saying goes, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So for me, I think anger, at least as it pertains to me, is an expectation that's not met multiple times. It's like I said, it could be something to do in my career. It could be something to do with a family member. It could be something to do with something personal like my health or, trying to lose weight or be healthy. There's varying degrees of that for me. So
Yeah.
what do you think it is for you?
Yeah, 100%. I have to agree with you 100%. I think, just in a general sense, anger on a personal level is when your expectations aren't being met. And that could be from what you expect from other people, what you expect from a particular situation, but just you expect a certain way of or an outcome for something to go a particular way and it doesn't go that way. And I think I had to learn a long time ago that, we're all individual and we all have different ideas about things. And so even though I may want to do a particular thing and this is how I want it to look, if someone else is involved, that means that they've also got their own ideas about that. And so it's a collaboration. I'll tell you a small story that happened last year, actually, which kind of exemplifies this. There was I'd gone shopping and jumped in the car, and this is going to be one of those road rage stories. Just to
Okay, yeah.
so we could probably all kind of relate to this, but. So I got in the car and we had a situation where two lanes were merging into one. And so normally I would think that, the car on the right goes first, the car on the left, and so forth, and we follow that kind of pattern. And so it was my turn to go, and the guy that was next to me didn't want to let me through, and so he was beeping the horn, and so because I was already in front, I just took off. And we stopped at the lights. He jumped out of his car and he called me everything under the sun. And I mean, there were people just standing on the road watching this because I think they were waiting for something to blow up, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, my God, all this was, one car in front of the other. I couldn't go behind him because I was already in front. But the point is, I think, that blew up to something that didn't need to go that way because I expected a particular thing and he expected something else. And really, at the end of the day, were we going to get any further, any quicker? Maybe 5 seconds quicker. And it took all my energy to kind of not jump out of the car, and I kind of grapple with that too. As a man, you kind of being a coward and going, this is going to turn into something worse than it needs to be. His kids are in the car, and I'm going, no. I just said to him, there's 2 lanes. There's 2 lanes. We both take turns. That's it. And I just had to shut my mouth and kind of drive off, and then kind of expel that kind of energy, because I was left with that anger then after that, but the whole point is that started from an expectation, what he had and what I had, and they didn't meet. So from that crazy example, this is how we get into situations, I guess, where maybe things aren't communicated properly, or we have our own expectations of things.
It's astounding to me how often road rage happens. It's, I drive a lot for work, and I've learned to just let things be. If I'm in the fast lane and someone comes up behind me, I'll move. At the same time, if someone's in the fast lane and I'm behind them, I might get a little bit angry, but I'll either move back. There's a lot of self-talk, at least for me, that I know I've learned to listen to myself when I'm getting to those situations. Stuck behind a slow car in the fast lane is a perfect example for me. That's almost a trigger that I'm so aware of now that I can shut it down before it happens. Change lanes, slow down. Who else is in the car with me? Like, there's no use in me getting angry, because you're right. Like, at the end of the day, it could mean an extra 5 seconds faster, if that. It could even be slower. Like peak hour traffic, you can't, just because you're in the fast lane doesn't mean you're going to get there any faster.
Yeah.
But it's always surprising to me. Like, I know how often it happens. People are tired. They want to get home, or they want to get to work. They're trapped in this little thing. They've either had, like a pretty crappy day at work, or there's things going on in their life, and they're almost forced to think about things. You're driving at the same time. There's not much else you can do, and that's why I think road rage most likely happens. Is that mix of being trapped with your thoughts? As much as you put music on and try and do it. You can sing, and then, oh, here's another guy. Here's a person that wants to merge into me. Takes you out of that, entertainment, and then you're right. You let them in begrudgingly, and then you're not quite the same after it. You know what I mean? You can actually hold that sort of anger all the way home.
Yeah,
but it's trying to get rid of that feeling after it gets you, which is the difficult part.
Yeah, absolutely. There's there's some practices I used to do ages ago, because once you have that anger, what do you do with it now? And if you can't do it physically, in terms of go and punch something or yell into a kind of pillow or something like that, so there are different stages, I guess. But what I used to do was I used to visualize where that anger was, and usually probably sat around the belly or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And so I'd find a spot where I could just for a couple of minutes kind of visualize where that was, and I'd always imagine it as a raging ball,
Yeah.
and but I would also imagine that feeling it coming up through my body, through the neck, and out of my mouth, and I'd expel the energy like I'll do it. I used to kind of, you know, like I was actually spitting the ball of energy out.
Yeah.
And it used to actually help, and you'd probably do it 10 times till you felt like there was nothing else in there. And that used to work quite well. But there's many different practices, and I think even, we've spoken about meditation before, but this is before you get to that place,
Yeah.
And having, mindfulness in terms of how you conduct yourself, I guess, every day. He's saying about even in traffic, sometimes we don't want to let people in. I've had to turn that around as well, because I think at that time when I had that road rage incident, I had in my mind, I'm going first, like I had that kind of attitude. And I'm a real believer in everything that you put out is what you get back. And that's what I got back.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've really been mindful again about kind of anytime someone wants to go through, I'll just let them through. What's the big deal? We're all going to the same place anyway. So any opportunity I can, I'll let someone through. And I've actually found that the same is reciprocated, So, yeah.
Yeah, it is that. It is allowing people in terms of karma. If you drive angry, which strangely a lot of people seem to do. They're always. What I find is a lot of people are in a rush for things, and whether that's whether they're genuinely late for something or that's just how they are when they hit the roads. There's always a certain level of alertness that people have, and so their actions are a little bit more erratic. And so when things don't go well for them, i.e., you go into a lane, even though you had enough space and they're speeding up behind you, their anger starts to rise up. And it never really, at least in my experience of when this happens, it never really goes. It's something that can stick with you for the rest of the drive. And in extreme circumstances, and I've had this happen as well, like it could stick with you for a couple of days. Like I had a similar situation to you many, many decades ago, actually, with road rage. And someone came out and went to my car, and I just looked at him, and then he looked like he was about to punch me. I just sat there and looked at him, and then he just left. And a couple of times I was like, I wanted to punch him, and then occasionally, and I'm talking decades, occasionally I'll think about it and go, I should have punched the guy. It'll come out of nowhere. Something will trigger it. And it's a memory somewhere in my brain that is, there's like clothes and other stuff piled on top of it. But occasionally I'll move stuff around and it's like, oh, there you are again. And I'll relive it. And it's by no means a bad memory. Like it's a memory, but it was one of those things where, okay, it's past. It's well past. But if I did this, I wonder what would have happened. Or if I did that. And it just goes to show that, these things, sometimes we think we have overcome it and we're never going to think about it again. Occasionally it pops up again, in the weirdest of times. And again, that could be a triggering event. But a lot of the times I've learned now to just observe it in a way and sometimes laugh about it and go, yeah, well, it happened. It happened for some reason or another, and I'm still here, so nothing bad happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you hear these sorts of things in America where road rage is quite bad, and they're armed as well. So it's, you really have to mind your P's and Q's over there. You could say the wrong thing and you could end up in a very bad place. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's the anger thing is in terms of my feeling overall. as you know, we talk in like 2025, it's quite high. I think people's default level of anger has elevated somewhat through the
Mm.
years with like a whole bunch of stuff going on, you know, just with what's going on in the world, post-COVID stuff and cost of living and everything else. So, you know, if we were able to accept a certain level of anger in the past, that amount of anger that we can accept before we start to blow up is much less these days. Like we seem to be a lot more triggered. I know personally that I'm pretty good with anger generally, but I know I'm finding myself more triggered about certain things,
Yeah.
but not doing anything bad about them. But I know that, hey, I don't like that. I don't like how our government is spending my
Yeah.
tax money. I don't like how there's a lot of violence happening in our state. I don't like how all of these cars are getting stolen, and
Yeah.
you know, and the feeling about the government and life overall is just different. You know, it doesn't feel as safe. And
Yeah.
so people's level of anger, like I said, the default level is up there. So, and it doesn't take that much now to trigger a person into doing something, you know, doing something bad, doing something that they shouldn't. So it's, you know, having to find and practice some tools to manage that will help. But the thing is, most people, you know, won't ever get to that point. It's usually just guys, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, girls are a bit different. I think they like to play the long game, like to scar you emotionally.
Yeah.
But that's different. But, you know, from a guy
You
point of
said that.
view, yeah. Well, you didn't disagree. No, I think that's well known. But it is something that, unfortunately, unless you get pulled up on it, nothing will happen. There's always a person that you know that seems to fly off the handle a lot easier than other people. And unless you're a really good friend of that person, no one ever gets told that, you know what I mean? Because they'll just get angry at you.
Oh, yeah,
there
that's true.
has to be a level of self-discovery where
Yeah.
it's like, why are people looking at me? Like, why am I yelling all the time? You have to get to that level of going internally. Like, why am I so angry all the time?
Yeah.
And that answer could be one of a billion answers for that one
Yeah.
person.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's having to
self-awareness, isn't
recognize
it?
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that took me a lot. Actually, I think it was probably other people around me telling me, because it felt quite normal to me when I was in my kind of early 20s and things like that to fly off the handle, and not that I'd hurt people, not directly anyway, but I would destroy things. You know what I mean? And people in my vicinity would get scared. So in turn, I was hurting them. But without someone saying something to me, I'd probably be, oh, what are you talking about? You know, and even that, it took me a while to kind of really take that on. That was the truth. That's the kind of environment you're creating around yourself. You know, so the awareness aspect is huge. If you're not self-aware about what you're kind of creating around you and what you're doing to other people, you know, it's pretty destructive, and you
Yeah.
don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah. You really need that person to tell you that that's happening. Like, I know my son, he's turning 16 in December, and he's into the computer games. Like, we all play the same games, and he plays them with his friends. And I know exactly where he's coming from, because I was the same when I was younger. And it's a weird sensation where you can play a game, any video game, and you die in the video game. You know, it happens to everyone.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the rage is immediate,
Yeah.
and you start to break things and to slam things.
Yeah.
It's automatic. I used to do it, but I was aware of it a couple of times. But I would just slam it and go, like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But I can hear my son do it when he'll play a game. He will swear and he
Yeah.
will bang something. And the swearing thing, I don't mind. The banging
Yeah.
thing, I do mind.
Yeah.
And I'll come up to him and say, you don't need to do that. Right?
Yeah.
I get it. You're angry, and it's almost an instant anger. It's a very abrupt, and it's an instant physical representation of what he's feeling. And
Yeah.
at some point, it gets scary
Mm.
because there are videos on the internet where people just flip out. Like they'll
Mm-hmm.
grab a keyboard and they'll slam it against the screen, or
Yeah.
they'll pick up their computer and slam it. And that's raw anger,
Mm.
like at its finest. And there's usually no lead up to it, because up until that point, you could be winning.
Yeah.
You could be, you could be top of the leaderboard. Everything's fine. All of a sudden, you get shot, and then instantly, it's just like bam, slam. And I've had to pull him up a couple of times. He's getting better. He's getting better in terms of managing it and letting it slide.
Yeah.
But it is a very kind of scary form of anger because, like I said, there's no build up, and it almost always results it results in a form of violence. It could be just as simple as slamming the mouse down, or banging the keys or the table, which is what I used to do that. People do that now; they just like slam it.
Yeah.
But sure, that happens the once. But if you continue to play and something happens again, that slam becomes a bit harder. Then you hurt your hand and you break your, it's an interesting thing, and I've had to pull them up on it and just make sure that it's a game. I get it. You're passionate. You love playing it. You're having fun, but like, don't let it get you down.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I understand.
It's kind of like your own invisible line, isn't it? Once you sort of cross that line and you kind of do the action once, and then the next time it's just a little bit more and a little bit more. I remember when I used to go into these fits of rage when I was younger, it actually did get scary, not just for the other people, but for me, because I felt like I was totally out of control. Like, I'd stop and there would be stuff broken. And I go, how did this happen? Type thing. And it's kind of like a real out-of-body experience, even though you're doing it and you can't seem to stop yourself once you're on that kind of train. It's gone. It's left the station. You know what I mean? And it won't stop until it's kind of got the whole thing out. And I look back now and I go, who was that? You know what I mean? It's so weird.
Yeah. It is instant. It is exactly that. It is out of body because you don't remember doing it until you've done it. After you've done it, someone's pulled you up. I've said to my son, don't do that. But it just happens so quickly. It's like it's a knee-jerk reaction to it.
Yeah.
Similar to the road rage incident as well. This guy's probably had a bad day. You've cut into him. You think everything's fine, and he's just chomping at the bit to pull around to stop his car in front of you and have a bit of a yell.
Yeah.
It's it's hard to see what the best way to deal with it is for everyone. But I think it has to start from a level of self-development, personal development, self-discovery, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And even recognizing the fact that you do have that problem. I tend to think that most people have their anger in check for the most part, and that for most people it would take quite a level of uncertainty and being uncomfortable for it to actually come out.
Yeah.
Look, sure, there's the odd person out there that's just angry at the world for everything, and that's fine. But I think generally, most men that have their faculties and wits about them, it does take quite a lot for them to break, and by a lot meaning constant and then accumulative, and it just keeps on sort of piling up. Which I think where a lot of those things happen is that they get knocked back down, they try and get back up a bit, then they get knocked down even further, then they try and get up a bit, and they get knocked down further than that until it gets a little dire. Like I've had friends that have gone through divorces, and there's child custody battles, and those sorts of things which are really dire. And the one thing that I do recommend for basically any guy that feels like that, and it doesn't have to be a divorce, it's just anything about feeling bad, is to talk to someone. And that's what I think most men don't do. Now, you and I are a bit different. We probably like to talk too much, right? So this is why we're doing this. um, and so, we have some options to talk to people, and people that we trust, and people that we love, and people that we are okay in opening up to and saying, hey, I have this problem. I don't know what to do about this. This is my situation, and we're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And I think what many men do is they don't know who to turn to, because they don't want to be judged, or they don't want people to know about their situation, or, it costs money to talk to professionals, and, even still, they might not have the right answer for them. And so they get a little stuck. So, the one thing that I could say to people is, if you know that there is that anger in you, and some people don't even know that, right? That's kind of the first step, is having to recognize that.
Yes.
You won't know that yourself, or you do, but you might not accept it in terms of, look, I'm just an angry guy. It's part of my culture. It's part of my upbringing. It's part of my background. If you're making excuses in that way, it's gonna be hard to help yourself. But once you accept that and go, okay, well, that's who I am, and I'm not particularly happy about that part of myself, the first thing you have to do is talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be a professional. It just has to be somebody that you trust and that you love and that you will listen to. It could be a stranger. You could. It's so liberating and freeing just to be able to tell someone what you're feeling, your problems, your faults, and they'll give you their advice, like unfiltered as well, without any bias, because they might not even know you.
Yeah.
So the first step is to basically just talk to somebody about it.
Yep. Good advice. The thing is, we do have to have that awareness, like you said. That's paramount, and if you're not aware, have a look around you, see what you're creating around you, the relationships that you've got. If people don't want to talk to you, there might be a reason. And, certainly you would have some sort of idea of how angry you get. I do believe there is a correlation between anger and the amount of things that we bottle up as well. Like you said, you need to talk to somebody. The less you talk to somebody about the things that are going on with you that are troubling you, and that doesn't have to be anything big. It could just be day-to-day things that you're not happy about. But it's about getting all of this energy out in a productive way. And one way is to talk it out, because you don't want to get to the point where it's got to come out like a volcano. And that's what used to happen to me. I wouldn't talk. I'd bottle up inside something to trigger, which was really something small, but it was probably something that, over months of something recurring over and over again, got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And even though it seemed small on the surface, underneath for me, it was months of this build-up. And so you don't want it to get to that point. So, like Dex said, speak to somebody, gain some self-awareness of yourself, and, release that energy in a very positive manner.
Yeah, and it's funny, hey, like guys generally, like we're the best at bottling things up, aren't we? We're the best at bottling things up, and not showing any emotions and hiding them.
Want to keep a secret? Tell a guy.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, I never knew he had it in him. That's because he was keeping everything inside and not wanting to show any weakness or any emotion. But inside, he's like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
He's trying to deal with family issues with a partner, issues with money, issues with a family, issues with just everything. And it's okay. I think for the most part, we tend to deal with it well, but there are options, and it is really about just accepting, asking for help, asking and accepting it and going, you know what, it's fine. We all have the same thing. You put 10, 20 guys in the room and we all have the same problems. We won't talk about it. We all have the same problems. But you should talk about them.
That'll be the very common thing, not just that we're male, but we all have very common problems, that we're
Yeah.
not talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
And the funny thing is, and I've seen this happen a lot, is that guys generally, you stick a bunch of guys together, regardless of their relationship to each other,
Mm.
they're always competitive. They're competitive in a way that could be comical, that could be fun, but at the same time, it's serious. So if you get them all together and they don't talk and they slowly start to talk,
Mm.
I've got problems with money. Oh, what's going on? Oh, I've got I've got $100,000 debt. $100,000. Ha! I've got $500,000 in debt. And next thing you know, it's this bit of a competition.
Yeah.
Like 500. My mortgage is over $1,000,000.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're talking too much, guys. Come on,
Yeah.
how are you gonna fix that?
Yeah.
You
You
know?
think you got problems? Look at
Yeah,
mine.
exactly. And you know what? I think that is that kind of brings up a really good tactic in all of this, is that one thing that, at least for me anyway, can quell anger quite significantly is humor and laughter.
Mm.
Is to look at things in a different light. Um, Look, I get it. There's going to be some situations where that's going to be near on impossible, but even just, and I've heard this before, even just smiling and at yourself, at the
Yeah.
world, even though inside it could be, a bit dark, it helps a little bit,
Mm.
to try and like make yourself happy, trying to laugh, watch something funny, you know, um, and maybe go into that wanting to talk to somebody with that emotion, not so much go into it sulking, which a lot of people can do because, for guys generally, it takes till they're basically, last couple of options for them to go to somebody.
Yeah.
And usually at that point, they're sulking, they're on their knees in a way. It's like, look, I've tried to figure this out myself and it's not working.
Mm.
But if you can somehow turn it around and look at it at a different light, in a different light, put some humor behind it, try and do something along those lines. It might not help, but for me, laughter has always helped. Laughter is the best medicine. Like, that's a saying for a reason.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not going to change the situation any, but it might change the way in which you look at it and how you
Mm.
approach it. Because if you're always thinking about your bad situation from a point of despair and anger and worry, like, that's all you're going to bring to that
Yeah.
situation. If you try and go to that situation with a different mindset, it's like, you know
Mm.
what, I can get through this.
Yeah.
There's a warrior's mindset in a way. Like, this is, what's that saying? This too shall pass.
Mm.
That's what they always say,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Once you get into that mindset and go, okay, well, this is another setback. This isn't going to be the last setback, but if I can get through this setback, that's fine. There'll be
Mm.
another one, but I'll get through that.
Yeah.
And slowly, you'll get through each and all of them. And sure, there's going to be different types. You're going to have, ones that will knock you to your knees, and there'll be other ones which you'll be able to get through in a couple of days, but there'll be ones that will basically scar you for the rest of your life. But having said that, being able to work that out internally, it sucks when people say this, but it's true. It's character building in a way. It builds your mettle. It defines who you are. It then almost forces you to do that self-development that we all talk about at the start.
Yeah.
Self-development, I think, for me, comes from a time when things aren't right, and you then judge yourself. It's like, I thought I would have this problem solved by now. Like, what's wrong with me? It's the first question. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And you might ask that a couple of times. And then the third or fourth or fifth time you ask yourself, you're like, you know what? I'm going to find out what's wrong with me. I'll sit down and actually analyze myself, in the same way that you might do your friends and other people. And then that's when that sort of that personal development starts.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's how it worked for me anyway.
Yeah, indeed. I think, life's full of choices. Sometimes you can't help the circumstances that you find yourself in, but the choice you have is the way to look at it, to reframe it. There are multiple choices, but basically you can either look at it as in a good light or a bad light. It's your choice at the end of the day, whatever meaning you put on what's happening right now. And whatever meaning that is that you put in on it is going to make you feel a certain way, and that's going to lead you down a certain path. So when we can start kind of reframing the way we see things as well, and put in a kind of more positive. I'm not so much into positive thinking and negative thinking, but seeing something in a better light will at least get you on the road that you want to go on, rather than leading you down the dark path. And you've always got that choice. Whatever happens to us, the stories that we tell ourselves is the one that's going to form our life. So whether you start that now or tomorrow, you've got to make that choice. And we're making those choices every single day. So maybe if you start to look at things differently, things will start to pan out differently.
Well said, Shane. All right, let's wrap this up. So to answer our original question, which was how to deal with anger without harming yourself or others, what did we say? I think for me it was exercise, get it out physically. It was remove yourself from the situation and the environment if that's what's causing the anger. It was journaling for me, kind of the long play. It was voice recording. It was me just basically letting it out, in a way that I probably would have done it if a person was there. It's saying my side of the situation, how I would have wanted to do it.
Yeah.
The person never needs to hear that, but at least I've gotten that off my chest. It's basically a tactic for me to get myself out of that headspace, because that's all it is at the end of the day, isn't it? Like this whole anger thing, it's a headspace. It's a mental space. And if you can somehow shift that, for me, through exercise, through journaling, through voice memos, through making myself tired, through getting myself out of that headspace, helps for me. What about you?
For me, it's about understanding the anger is just an energy. It's a form, an emotion that you feel inside your body. So it has to be expressed some way. And whether you express it in a positive way or a negative way is really up to us. But the way that happens is the way we see something. So going back to the incident with the guy in the car, if I thought I'm going to be a man, I'm going to jump out of this car and I'm going to hit him, that's one option I've got. The other one is to kind of help him see reason. We're both on the road. We're trying to get home. That's it. It's let's not make it a big deal. And even though I had to deal with the anger later, now that I've got the anger, what do I do with it? So it's time to release it. Can certainly do it the way that you said. I've punched bags before, that sort of thing. Go for a run, or you can visualize and release that energy. But however you do it, find a form of releasing that energy that's going to be conducive to you and not harmful to other people and yourself.
Perfect. Well said. Thanks, Shane. Catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Dex. Take care.